Hello guys, I'm Shock, came back with a screenshot type video. Was the Scourge Virus on the Viltrumite justified, or was it not? And in my opinion, it was not. Killing untold billions of Viltrumites who potentially wasn't even a part of conflict is unjustified, even if they were a part of conflict. Now, somebody said, well, I would say it wasn't even part of conflict, and that is, if there were billions of Viltrumites that was wiped out by the Scourge Virus, right? Then you would expect that most of them would not be on Planet Viltrum. And if they weren't on Planet Viltrum, how did it exterminate most of the population when it could have put out warnings on multiple Viltrumite ships to not come back home? There's been an infection, there's been a plague, and to stay away. Stay on other planets, because the correlation of planets only set this virus off on Planet Viltrum. So that would argue that most of the Viltrumites were on Planet Viltrum when this set off. Now some might say, well, maybe they was there for a celebration or a parade, but we saw from Nolan's flashback that's not what happened. So if most people are on Planet Viltrum, that would have to concur that most people in the Viltrum Empire are not going out there and enslaving and torturing people. And if that's the case, then you don't kill billions of innocent people who had no real involvement in the Empire besides from living by their bad culture. I've seen a lot of people try to defend the use of the Scourge Virus, saying, well, the Viltrumites did horrible and bad things. Look at what they've done. Now, from that same logic, kids, would that mean that Nolan and Mark has to die? Because the argument has not been, well, the Viltrumites were raised wrong. The argument is that the Viltrumites are bad to their core. They're just a rotten species, like they just said, in everything they've done. So because of the sins of the culture, Nolan and Mark have to die. Right? Why should they live when they carry that same burden through blood? Suspect logic, right? And it was just, well, they had a bad culture. Then doesn't that mean those people can be changed within that culture? Does that mean they should be given a chance to improve? If they would have wiped out a quarter of the population, that's one thing. If they would have wiped out half of the population, that's one thing. Committed genocide of 99.9%, including the children, on Planet Viltrum. 99.9. Less than 50 individuals alive. That is genocide on a scale that have not been seen since ancient times on the planet Earth. Criticize this in reality. The same people that be like, well, you can't do that, and culture, this and that, then it's just, well, pause. You're arguing culture and people can improve in real life, but when it's fictional character, it's justified. But then from that same merit say that stories and entertainment are all political. They're all political. Everything's politics. Everything gotta have a message and themes. So the theme of the story is commit genocide, and it's justified. That people can't culturally change. Now some might say, well, I'm so opposed to the whole Viltrumite thing. We'll get into some later spoilers later on, but let's stick to the show first 4 seasons, right? Nolan, a notorious member, like a captain or lieutenant of the Viltrum Empire, he changed. He changed. Thetis changed. During the height of the Empire, under Emperor Argus's rule with the Viltrumites, Thetis saw the error in his kind ways and betrayed them. So if those two people can change and improve, it just showed that the culture of the Viltrumites were bad and not the people themselves. It does not justify wiping out the majority of the species because they're just led wrong. They're not bad because of the species. They're bad because of the culture, what they're raised in. There was never any attempt to broker any deals. There was never a release of, well, you better stop invading planets or we're going to do something to you. Because why would the Viltrumites take them seriously with that threat like that? So, sticking by the show merit, if Nolan can change, if Thetis can change, everybody can change. The culture was bad. The species itself was not. It does not justify mass genocide because you don't like someone else's culture or their own personal practices. That's not a justifiable excuse. But they enslave people. That can change. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't justify their bad decisions. But that's bad leadership, not bad species. So, if it's bad blood, Mark and Nolan should die too. If it's bad culture, then there was no justifiable reason to wipe out billions. And it gets even worse. Everything anybody has done to try to stop the Viltrumites have somehow made them worse every time. They killed King Argyll. No, in this case, let's get into the Thetis argument. Thetis is a genocidal maniac. He's a monster. That's who he is. Everything he did against the Viltrum, the fittest, that only happened because Thetis killed King Argyll, at least in the comic books. The whole purity thing was not the way it was since then. And to prove that point, by the time we see Nolan in the Scourge Virus flashbacks, he was already under the rule of Thrag. Way after King Argyll, Emperor Argyll. Meaning that wasn't a thing. That didn't exist. So that's strike one. You cause a mass killing among Viltrumites, properly chopping the population from potentially what? Let's just throw out some human numbers, right? 8 billion to 4 billions? Because of you Thetis. Second strike. Create the Scourge Virus, right? Wipe out 99.8% of the population. Now some might say, well, how did those other ones survive? They just got stronger genetics. So now, Thetis got a second Scourge Virus. It's not going to work. Because they already got the antibodies built up in their bodies to be resistant against the Scourge Virus. He never had any test subjects. They wasn't testing the Scourge Virus on actual test subjects. They were just using Thetis' blood and just concocting some type of combinations of wiggity whack in the lab. So now the Viltrumites you don't made that survive are even 10 times stronger than the ones you had to deal with before. And more ruthless. And more vengeful. So what did the virus do? You chop the Empire down to a small, minute bit, and you're still struggling to fight them? Still? To the point where you need to go across the galaxy with tag team with Alan to find MacGuffins? For you can pray and hope that you could take on 40 people? You need all that help to take on 40 Viltrumites? 40? What chance did you stand in the first place? So that's why I personally hate Thetis, because he's a genocidal maniac, and everything he's done against his own species made the species worse. Every time. The people trying to promote this genocide and say it was justified. So let's get into the spoiler points. So you already know my viewpoints of why I think it's wrong. On to the spoilers. Later on, there's a situation where Thrag is no longer the leader of the Viltrumites, right? He gets beat up by his own people for a reason, right? And when that happened, the entire culture of the Viltrumites changed. They became better. They became cooperative. They started to do things to help improve the life of the people that were around them. So that just proved that it wasn't only just an anomaly with Omni-Man and Thetis. That them as a people were only led wrong. Meaning, those countless billions of people that were massacred and helped. They could have been taught better. Because not just they slaughtered a bunch of grown adults. Them billions included children as well. You justifying the massacre of children too, huh? You gonna make that argument in your video? Huh? That what we're arguing? So, with that being thrown in there, like this is not a subject of what? This is undeniable proof that the Viltrumites can change and be better. They're not bad people. They just have a bad culture. A culture that can be changed, influenced, and improved by whoever leads them better. Because Thrag only got that position because Argyll was killed. And he believed that the strongest, just like how he was bred, need to survive. And that's why the culling started. Meaning, if Thetis would never killed old Emperor Argyll, that none of this stuff would have got worse as it is now. Not sure, does it justify the conquering? No. But just like with the Saiyans, they can change. They can be better. They were just led wrong. And Saiyans just had a bad deal in the first place, because they got to work on the Frieza either way. So just like them. Trying to say Frieza was justified in wiping out the Saiyans because they did a few bad actions. No, they can't change. And it's just, it irritates me and it agitates me. We got people who will argue and demean and try to say that the world isn't black and white. But as soon as you start talking political or start arguing culture, everything becomes black and white, and we can't have a nuanced conversation. It's whether you're right or you're wrong or you're a bigot. The same people are sitting here arguing the extermination of an entire race that only needed a good leader, that only needed a proper person to follow. Now, we never found out why Argus started to believe the Viltrumites should conquer other people, because it starts with him. Now, we don't know how long this has been going on with Viltrumite culture. We don't got the whole lineage in the comic books either with the whole dinosaurs or how far this goes back. But this proves undeniably that the Viltrumites did not deserve to get exterminated like that. Because they could change. They can improve. Because Thetis killed Argus and ran. Then created a virus that killed even billions of more people. And now he's making another virus to exterminate them completely. At what point are you trying to sit down at the negotiation table and try to talk with these people? You can't say they don't try to talk to people, because they tried to talk to Mark twice after Omni-Man left. And Concourse is there for cleanup. So what the Nissa thing, getting sent to the planet, that was just, well, she was just playing nice. Like General Craig didn't let Mark go after he potentially attempted to murder 2 of his own kind. Did General Craig not let Mark go? And the only reason Omni-Man was being put on trial because he betrayed his own kind. Mark is out there fighting the Viltrumites too, and Craig tried to cut him a deal. Did that not happen? You can't say it was comic book exclusive. It happened in the show. So you can't say the Viltrumites like you can't negotiate with the Viltrumite. We've seen no evidence to prove otherwise that I know of. So you couldn't talk with these people. Can't put out a threat. Couldn't make a peace treaty. Just hit the genocide button. And these are the same people who hate nuclear weapons but are supporting their genetic extermination of an entire species because they're led wrong. Imagine if a person like that got into power. Imagine. But everything's politics, right? But it is what it is. In my opinion, they didn't deserve it. They just had a bad culture and a bad leadership. And as soon as they changed the leadership, the entire species became better. Not a question of if. This actually happens. It's actually proven. So you can't argue trying to say they black because they're Viltrumites, huh? What argument can you use to justify the extermination of all these people? Especially since you could even argue that most of them, since most of them was on Planet Viltrum, was even conquering people. Cause with only 40 people, they got the galaxy scared like that. Imagine if they had billions, how did the galaxy even fight against these guys? How? Not just the galaxy, the universe. How did any planet fight against the Viltrum Empire when they had billions of Viltrumites on the front line? It's almost like most of them were just civilians, just raised in the bad culture, and just used the slaves and the benefits in the empire, or just living inside of it. And if that's the case, and let's just say 15% was the military wing, and everybody else was on Planet Viltrum, do you know what that means, boys and girls? You don't slaughter the group of people for no reason, because you just had to change the leadership. So that's my thoughts and opinions about it. I had to remake this video. Hopefully I was able to get my point across the same way I did the first time, but it's just, there's no justifiable argument that you can make for the extermination of 99.75%. There are only 50 left. 50, like 49 at best. Billions to like those are unbelievable numbers. Not even nobody, like there is no faction on Earth that's got up to billions of kills. Billions. You know how many kill streak Thetis got right now? How many? And people feel like I don't like Thetis. So that's why I'm glad that later in season 4, Thetis is gonna get what he deserves for being a genocidal maniac. Now in the show he's more uncaring about his own kind and trying to say it was justified, look what we've done. They done it under who? These wasn't individual decisions. This was a culture in the empire. Doesn't justify slaughtering children. Doesn't justify slaughtering people who probably had no involvement on the front lines. But if a person was to say off the cuts with no context, just... And this is why people don't understand Anakin in Star Wars. I put it like this. Anakin believed that the ends justified the means. Meaning, when he went in there and massacred those younglings, How is that any different from when he wiped out the Tuscans for his mother? Because he believed, because of his emotions, and that he was upset that the ends of extermination was justified, just like it was to try for him to try to save Palpatine. It wasn't some grandiose twist. Anakin had it in him, but Palpatine manipulated it to his own benefit. The same way with the Viltrumites, Thrag, and Argyle. If they were led properly, or even just had a change of leadership, things would have been better. But whoever the council was to vote for Thrag put him in there, and Thrag been a monster ever since. So, if you got thoughts and opinions, if you find the Scourge Virus to be justified, in my opinion, it was not. It wiped out and slaughtered billions of innocent potential people. And even let's say they wasn't innocent, right? Let's have the argument and let's say billions of guilty people that was on the front line cracking that whip. That's not a justification to exterminate an entire race. I'm sorry, it's not. You want to put sanctions? You want to hold them back? You want to take away their power and influence? Wipe out their leadership? You even just take away 50%. I'm trying to give you leeway with 50%. It's wrong. But you can, in some sick way, try to justify the memes, right? And the children, too. I guess that's all justified to you, huh? It is what it is, man. This is just a few people and their opinions, but it's just, come on. Come on. Come on. You treat fictional politics more real than you treat real politics. And you wonder why the world is the way it is. Because if you can justify it in fiction, you can try to argue it for reality. And we've already seen how y'all was clowning and making fun of people who was suspect of the vaccine. Because it was untested and rushed out to the people. Will potentially lead to heart problems and long-term effects. And you laughed at them. So it is what it is, people. I'm just upset that people are actually arguing this. This wasn't supposed to be turning into a massive morality video. This is supposed to be like a decent conversation about Invincible. Like there's like this and this. I'll put it to you like this. I ended with this. I've never seen, not for any person that try to lie to you and tell you that human beings are animals. Don't believe that crap. Cause I've never seen a lion be like, I hate lions. Oh my God, I can't stand. I've never seen dogs be like, I hate the entire dog species. Never seen it. I've never seen it. Never. You can't name any other species that have these complex conversations like this. None. Even with someone with similar intelligence, I've never seen a group of octopi be like, boy, I can't stand octopus. So in this case, I've never seen a singular group hate itself to oblivion like this. Because they're being led that way. And they personally believe it. Because remember, my emotions means more than facts. If that's the game we're playing by, then well, that means that anybody emotions, like Sahelanthropus and MGS5, will mean more than anyone else's. It is what it is. So we got like, comment, subscribe. If you want some more Invisible content, I won't cover every episode, but if you want me to talk about a few things, I will. I might make a season 4 video about it, but I don't know. If you like, comment, subscribe now. Peace. I had to record this video twice. It is what it is.